My name's Samuel. Come summer, in a town like Silver Rock, my name means more than the preachers on a Sunday. When the sun beats down and turns Main Street into a skillet, and the dust gets so thick you feel like you're breathing the desert itself, I am salvation. I am cool relief. I am the Iceman. My work starts long before dawn. I hitch my 2 mules, Stout and Hush, and begin the long climb up into the foothills, to where Crescent Lake lies sleeping. That place is my kingdom. The air there is sharp and cold even in July. It freezes solid in the winter, and the summer sun can't ever hope to touch its depths. My job is to saw a piece off that forever glacier and get it back to town before it turns to a puddle.
It's hard work, but it's honest. You cut the ice, you haul the ice, you sell the ice. That simplicity always suited me just fine. I never went looking for trouble. I'd seen fights in the Golden Spur Saloon. I'd seen Deputy Finn pretend not to notice the shadow games played by Cyrus Blackwood, the man who owned that saloon, and the town itself. I saw it all, but I kept my head down. My world was the saw, the mules, and the cold gleam of the lake.
That was until yesterday. The morning was like 100 others. I got to work, the rhythmic rasp of the blade the only sound in that holy quiet. I was nearly through the cut when the saw hit something hard. Not rock. The sound was a dull, heavy thud. I took my ice pick to carefully chip away at the obstruction. The first strike. The second. With every chip, the thing inside became clearer, and that's when I saw it. It wasn't a branch. Through the blue-tinged depths, I was looking at fingers. A cold dread, colder than any ice, seized me. I stumbled back, landing hard on the sharp scree. I just sat there, staring. A hand. A human hand, severed clean just above the wrist, frozen in time like a fly in amber. I forced myself to my feet. With trembling hands, I chipped away more ice. And then, as a ray of sunlight pierced the canopy, I saw what the hand was holding. A revolver. A Colt. And not just any Colt. Its ivory grip bore a beautiful, custom engraving. The intertwined letters D and G. David Garrett. It was the marshal's gun. Marshal David Garrett had vanished last winter. The official story was a hunting accident. They found his horse, but no sign of the marshal. Deputy Finn, that spineless weasel, led a half-hearted search and then just shrugged. The town forgot. In Silver Rock, people disappeared. But now, I was staring at the proof. This was no accident. A man doesn't go hunting and leave his hand behind. That gun wasn't holstered. This was the hand of a man about to fight for his life. And lose. I looked around, the silence of the canyon now heavy and menacing. What was I supposed to do? Tell Deputy Finn? The thought of Finn made a bitter taste rise in my throat. He'd report it to the one man who shouldn't know, Cyrus Blackwood. Garrett had been a burr under Blackwood's saddle. His vanishing had given Blackwood free rein, and here I was, standing over the one piece of evidence that could blow this town apart. I made the only decision I could. I had to take it. I cut the whole block free and wrestled it onto my wagon. I covered it with canvas, heaped on the sawdust, and drove down the mountain. The whole way, my eyes were fixed on the covered mound in my wagon. It felt like it was radiating a tomb's chill. When I rolled into Silver Rock, I made my deliveries on pure instinct. I smiled at Mrs. Henderson and nodded to Mr. Jones, the undertaker. But inside, I was a block of ice myself. In my wagon lay the frozen hand of a dead lawman, and I felt its grip on that gun was now a grip on my life. That evening, my wife Mary met me at the door. "Sam, you're white as a ghost." I couldn't tell her. I couldn't let that horror into our small, warm world. "Just tired, darling," I lied. That night I didn't sleep. I moved the gruesome block into my ice cellar, a small stone dugout. I locked it with a heavy iron bar. But even through the thick wooden door, I could feel its presence. It wasn't just ice anymore. It was evidence, a verdict, and quite possibly my own death warrant. The next few days were a special kind of hell. I started listening, really listening. My first break came from old man Hemlock, the town drunk. I offered him a dipper of cool water. "Hot one, Sam," he grunted. "About as hot as that day the marshal went on his hunt. Something was always off about that." I played dumb. "What was off?" "All of it," he said. "Garrett was the best tracker in 3 counties. And his horse? They found it down by the gorge. But he told folks he was heading up toward Black Pass. That's in the other direction." The marshal went one way, but his horse was found somewhere else. A false trail. "You see him that day, Hemlock?" I asked. The old man squinted. "I did. Before he left, he had words. Right here on this street, with Mr. Blackwood. They were standing outside the saloon. Blackwood was smiling that snake smile of his, and the marshal was angry. I never saw him so angry. Then he just spun around and rode off. Blackwood just watched him go, like a coyote eyeing a rabbit with a broken leg." This was it, the thread, an argument right before he disappeared. I took my side of Jonas, the blacksmith, good friend of the marshal's. I asked him if Garrett had mentioned anything strange. Jonas frowned as he stoked his forge. "David was coiled tighter than a spring," he rumbled. "Kept talking about some land claim scheme up by the lake. Said Blackwood was filing false deeds. Garrett was heading up there to find the proof. Told me, 'Jonas, I'm gonna pin this bastard to the wall.' Last words he ever spoke to me." The picture was snapping into focus. The marshal finds out about the land grab, rides up to get proof, and never comes back. His body ends up in the lake. I wasn't just holding evidence. I knew the motive. I knew the killer. One evening, as I was unhitching the mules, one of Blackwood's men, a big bruiser in Lenny, strolled into my yard. "Hey, Iceman," he growled. "Boss was wondering if you had any of that special ice, the real clear kind." I froze. Special ice? Was this a hint? "All my ice is the same, Lenny," I said. He spat near my boot. "Well, you look harder. You never know what you might find up there. The boss pay is good for interest in fines, and he really don't like it when folks find things and decide to keep them. It wasn't a request. It was a warning. The rope was tightening." That night, I did what I had been dreading. I brought the block out. Locking myself in the cellar, I spent hours carefully melting the ice. Finally, I worked it free. The hand was a gruesome sight, but I wanted the gun. I pried the dead fingers open. The cold steel felt searing hot. I checked the cylinder. 5 bullets and 1 empty casing. The marshal got a shot off. I hid the revolver in a loose floorboard in the barn. As for what remained of the hand, I buried it. I knew this was only the beginning. My wife, Mary, knew. One evening, she put her hand over mine. "Samuel, you have to tell me. Whatever this is, we face it together." The dam I had built inside myself finally broke. I told her everything. When I finished, she was silent. "You have to get rid of it," she whispered. "Throw that gun down a mine shaft. Think about Toby. Blackwood will destroy us." She was right. But then I pictured Marshal Garrett's face. He had died trying to protect regular folks. If I did nothing, his death meant nothing. "I can't, Mary," I said. "It isn't right." I had to talk to Deputy Finn. Maybe he might find a spine. I found him in his tiny office. "This is about Marshal Garrett," I said. Finn's face broke out in a sweat. "That's all business. A tragic accident." "It was no accident," I said. "I found proof." Finn went pale, his eyes darting around like a cornered rat. I don't want to hear it, he hissed. Forget about it, Sam. You have no idea who you're dealing with. He grabbed my shirt. You keep your mouth shut, or I can't be responsible for the safety of your family. It wasn't a warning. It was a threat.
Finn had run straight to them. That night, a heavy knock fell on our door. I opened it to find Lenny and another of Blackwood's thugs. "Evening, Samuel," Lenny said with a grin. "Thought we'd check on our favorite Iceman. No one bothering you? Maybe the deputy marshal stopping by with silly questions?" Mary gasped behind me. I stood square in the doorway, blocking their path. Lenny stepped closer. "Hard work hauling all that ice. Unless maybe you hauled something else down from that mountain." His gaze flickered past me, to Mary and little Toby. The threat was naked and brutal.
Desperation can break a man, or forge him into something sharp. They had threatened my family. That I couldn't forgive. I know I couldn't do it alone. I needed an ally. Before sunrise, I was at Jonas' smithy. I followed him to the back and laid Marshal Garrett's revolver on the anvil. Jonas stared at it. "I'll be damned," he whispered. I told him the whole story. When I was done, his face was like granite. "I knew it," he growled. "That bastard Blackwood, he's poisoned this town. You're in it deep now, son, but you're not in it alone anymore." "We can't outshoot them," Jonas said, a spark lighting in his eyes. "But maybe we can outsmart them. Blackwood's power rests on the lie he built. If we tear down that lie, his power crumbles. In 3 days, it's Founders' Day. Blackwood will make a big speech. The whole town will be there. That's our chance. You bring folks cool, clear relief from the heat, Samuel. So let's bring them to cold, clear truth." I understood. It was a hell of a risk, but it was the only way. Founders' Day. The square was packed. Blackwood stood on a stage, beaming. He had the gall to mention the tragic loss of Marshal Garrett. "He didn't fall to any beast, Blackwood," I yelled. "He fell to a coward's bullet." "What is this nonsense?" Blackwood hissed. "This is the truth." I ran to my wagon and ripped the canvas off. Underneath was a massive, transparent block of ice, and inside, gleaming like a relic in a crystal tomb, was Marshal Garrett's gun. The crowd gasped. "Seize him!" Blackwood shrieked. But Jonas and other ranchers stepped forward. The law in Silver Rock was dead. So we made our own. Blackwood, betrayed even by his deputy, tried to run. He fired, I fired, and my bullet flew true. I stood over his body, the smoke from my gun still hanging in the air. I, Samuel, the Iceman, had done it. I brought more than just cool relief. I brought justice.